All right, welcome in Week 13 here in the college football season. It is here. It's minus 24 hours before total chaos, hopefully. Who doesn't love chaos when you're trying to figure out the top 12 teams in the country? I do, and I know these three guys might very well root for a little bit of chaos. That probably means a boatload of underdogs could win outright this weekend. And if anybody is going to have them, well, it's these three guys as we welcome in Ross Benjamin back to the show, Bryan, Leonard in the house, and TC, Teddy Covers, ready to roll, known as the A-Team on a Friday here, guys. We got 5 games we're going to go over. If you have a question about a game that you want to talk about, make sure you drop them in the chat room if you're joining us live here today on this Friday. But we want to kick it off with the SEC. What better place to go, Ross? Then with Texas A&M taking on Auburn, but don't look now. They got a pretty big game against another Texas school coming up next week. What do we think we're going to get with Auburn and Texas A&M this week?
Well, when you look at this line, A&M is minus 2.5 against Auburn. You know, and if it smells fishy and looks fishy, it's fishy. Because the bottom line is this. This is an A&M team that's 8-2, nationally ranked, still alive for an SEC title, and still alive for a college football playoff berth. And they're going against an Auburn team that's 4-6. Yet they're only a 2.5-point favorite. Additionally, if you look at both teams' SEC records, Texas A&M 5-1, Auburn 1-5. You got to love Texas A&M, right? With all that being said, not so fast, my friends, because, again, I'm going to use a contrarian approach here. To me, I have no idea why this line, it makes no sense. And when that happens, I usually, like I say, go with the contrarian approach and go against what the obvious indicates. And, you know, Auburn has won 2 of their last 3 games. Their defense has been very good in that 3-game stretch, allowing 13.7 points per game and 223 yards per game. And after committing 14 turnovers in their first 4 games of the season, they've only committed 6 in the remaining 6 games, or last 6 games, I should say. So they've improved in that aspect. And, you know, I think I'm going to be on the minority here, but I'm used to being on an island, Joe. I'm going to take Auburn here, plus the 2.5 at home against Texas A&M.
That is absolutely disgusting, Ross, and I love every damn minute of it as well there, as A&M certainly will have their maybe their eye looking ahead a little bit, but that's how teams get caught here at Auburn coming up this weekend. And Bryan, Leonard, you are going to head out to the Big 12, and wow. This is an interesting one with Colorado traveling to Kansas. Does anybody want to play Kansas? I mean, my goodness here, Bryan, they've got more top 25 wins than Colorado does. That's for damn sure. So what gives in this one? Do they make it, a 3rd straight ranked team they take down, Kansas?
Well, we take a look at the Buffaloes. They've really improved their work on the road this season. In the last 4 games away from home, they've won by margins of 14, 27, 27, and 19 points. So they're playing much better on the road than they did a year ago. And while the rushing game has underperformed, the passing game has been terrific. They've got a 161.27 quarterback rating with a 27-7 touchdown to interception ratio. That's been pretty good all season long. That offense can really move the ball through the air. The Buffaloes have scored 28 points or more in 8 straight games, including 90 combined points the last 2 contests. This offense for Colorado is peaking. This is the 3rd straight Kansas game where they faced a ranked opponent. They're 2-3 on the season against ranked opponents. As you mentioned, they played a really tough schedule. They've lost to Illinois, UNLV, Arizona State. Well, they did beat Iowa State and BYU the last 2 weeks. So the teams they have beaten are teams that are fading, and the teams that they lost to, none of them are going to end up the season in the top 20. So I'm not a big believer in Kansas. I love the coach, but unfortunately, I seem to pick the Kansas games where they're not going to play well. And so I've struggled a little bit with Kansas games by backing them this year. There's been a lot of games where it's gone down to the wire. It could have been coin flips. So That could possibly be here, and that's what the line's telling you. Currently 2.5. Kansas has a very good running game. They average 5.36 yards per carry, but they struggle to stop the run, allowing 4.32 yards per carry. Opponents have 18 passing touchdowns this season against them. This is the best passing game they've faced all year long. And from a scheduling standpoint, not only are the Jayhawks playing a ranked team for the third straight week, they face in-state rival Kansas State the previous week. So, previous game before that. So they've had a lot of tough games in a row here. And as you know, you can only get up so many times during the season. This line opened at 2, went to 2.5. Now, as I'm seeing the board today, most of them are going to 3. So if you do like the Colorado, get on that right now. If you like the Kansas, maybe you can catch a 3.5 by tomorrow or a 4. We'll see how that goes. But I like Colorado here. I like the way they're playing right now. And the schedule, just those 4 games in a row for KU is just brutal. I'll take Colorado in this one.
So let me ask you here, Bryan, because it begs the question. If you like Colorado, and I know one of was it Bill Sandoval in the chat room there says I can only look at overs in their games. It would make sense that Colorado's going to win a game by scoring a lot of points there. But if Kansas is going to win this game, they're going to win it because they're running the ball and they're keeping Shador and company on the sideline. So correlate between Colorado and the over and Kansas and the under?
Well, if they're running the ball, they're probably running the ball well, and that keeps them in the game. I don't know. Colorado could score so fast. That offense is so good from the passing standpoint. They don't run the football, so they're not taking time off there. So I don't know if that's a way that you can attack this Colorado team by just trying to take the air out of the ball. It could probably help, but I don't know if it's enough to get the victory here. So we'll have to see how it goes. I'm not so sure there's any correlation.
Big shout out to Rachel, who just wanted us all to know that if this game, if there's going to be any rigged game this weekend, it's definitely going to be this Colorado game. And Rach, listen, feel free to DM me who's doing the rigging and what side I should be on. Just if you could let us know that the 4 of us here, we will pool the money. Just let us know where it's being rigged and who we need to be on. And I am absolutely all for that. Teddy Covers in the house, ready to roll here on this week 13 for college football. Don't forget, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up, and of course, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already here. Become part of the WagerTalk TV family. All right, Teddy, we're ahead to the Big Ten here for Penn State and Minnesota. PJ Fleck still licking his wounds. They are losing to Rutgers. I don't even know how that worked out. But they did have a week, I guess, to prepare, kind of put it together. He has been very good in this spot with Minnesota over the years. Penn State here? Okay, you blew out Washington. All right, you beat Purdue. Okay, it feels like a lot of points here, Teddy. Is it a lot of points?
So it does feel like a lot of points for Penn State, Minnesota. And certainly when we think about what we think when it comes to PJ Fleck and rowing the boat, you know, Minnesota's a feisty team. They play defense. They slow the game down. They shorten possessions. You're not going to play a Minnesota game with 14 possessions on each side. Run the football, play defense, keep it close. In theory, that's what Minnesota's supposed to do here. We talk about a double-digit home dog. For a team that's been pretty good on their home field. Blowout of Maryland, their last home game. They upset USC on this field previously. Had back-to-back shutouts back in September on this field. So at first glance, it's easy to take that knee-jerk reaction and say, yeah, Gophers plus, obviously, Gophers plus. What do we say? Ross Benjamin talked about earlier, not so fast, my friend. This line's telling us something with Penn State as double-digit chalk. And the fact that we're seeing the Nittany Lions taking money as double-digit chalk is telling us something. And it's real simple. When you look at this year's Minnesota team, how are they going to move the football in this game? Minnesota is not a good running team in 2024. The offense has changed to being a little bit more pass-centric. They're average, 3.6 yards a carry for the full season. And that's not all just quarterback sacks. But when we look at the top 2 backs for the Gophers, neither one's even getting 5 yards a carry. And that's a concern here. So Minnesota, I don't think is going to be able to shorten the game and limit possessions. I don't think they'll be able to run the football. And I'm not convinced that the passing game is going to be able to move the ball up and down the field against this Nittany Lions defense. Not even a little bit. I mean, Penn State, elite defensively. We saw what they did to Ohio State a couple of weeks back, and in the 3 games before since, 10, 6, and 13 points allowed. This defense is no joke. So maybe I'm talking under. Maybe I'm talking Minnesota team total under. Maybe I'm talking Penn State minus the points. All of those make sense to this better in a game that I think Minnesota is going to really struggle to score.
Yeah, I love the team total look, Teddy, for Minnesota. It does feel like the defenses are going to have a say in this game. Both defenses really are pretty good in that one there on a low total. Minnesota trying to get back in the W column, but where, like Teddy said, where's the points? God damn it. Where are the points coming from Minnesota? Just don't know where they will be here. So we've got 3 games in the books. Penn State, Minnesota, Colorado, Kansas, A&M, and Auburn. We got a couple of games we're going to talk about in a roundtable style here. Of course, Army, Notre Dame, and then we'll head to Alabama and OU with the guys, plus any games you want to talk about. Joining us live here today on the stream. Make sure you drop those games in the chat rooms here if you're joining us on any one of the platforms. Don't be afraid to hit that like button or the subscribe button. We certainly appreciate you guys hanging with us here today. And a lot of chatter about this game between Army and Notre Dame. It's at Yankee Stadium. So neutral site game here. And let's say it feels, Ross, like a lot of people think, didn't we just see this game? Oh, yeah, that's right. It was Navy, and it didn't work out well. Are we going to see anything different here? Because that's really going to determine whether or not we like Army in this one or Notre Dame. I think that one was 13.5 against Navy. Kind of similar here, or is it?
Yeah, well, the difference, I believe, between this matchup and a Navy matchup, number one, Navy turned the ball over 6 times in that game. Hard to win, hard to stay close against a quality team like Notre Dame, or any team for that matter, when you turn the ball over that many times. Also, if you look at the box score in that game, Navy did run for well over 200 yards on the ground, despite having to play uphill, well behind most of the game. I think Army will be able to run the ball, as they always do. This is a team that averages over 6 yards a carry, over close to 359 yards per game rushing. Time of possession, they average just shy of 35 minutes per game. And boy, oh boy, the best defense sometime is a good offense that has great time of possession. And that's certainly the case with Army, although their defense has been very good this year, only allowing 11 points per game. Notre Dame only allowing 10 points per game. You got 2 good defenses, 2 teams that run the ball very well, 2 teams that are run heavy. I mean, Army obviously is run heavy, running the triple option, and 87% of their offensive plays being runs. But Notre Dame, on the other hand, they run the ball 57% of the time. So, and they're also averaging over 200 yards a game, and both teams stop the run. I like this game to go under the total, Joe. By the way, Joe, I'm watching the CBS broadcast of the NFL on Sunday, and they go to the studio for these in-game highlights. And I said, I didn't know Joe Ranieri was working for the NFL and CBS. And lo and behold, it was Adam Shine. So
yes,
instead of saying that you sound like Adam Shine sounds like you, my friend.
Yes, and by the way, he too is a loser Jet fan. So congratulations there. Appreciate that, Adam. Outstanding stuff as always. We both hate the Jets now. Bryan, so we got an under here from Ross in this game, which is probably never a bad look. Listen, it's bad enough in bowl games with these damn baseball stadiums in bowl situations with football teams. Does it make you change your opinion or how you handicap a game going from, I don't know, like a football field to a baseball field that's turned into a football field?
I'm just hoping for his sake and for mine that we see more of a baseball score in this game.
Well done.
I too like the under here. We can even take the Yankees against the Dodgers in the World Series and we still get the under with all the scoring that they had in that series. But yeah, the Black Knights offense has been outstanding. Ross talked about it. 6.20 yards per carry and a quarterback rating of 187.91. along with an 8-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio on the season. Army's only thrown one interception all season long. But this is a major step up going against this Irish defense. In fact, Army has taken a step back the last two games offensively, scoring season lows 20 against Air Force and then 14 last week against North Texas, of all teams. They defend the pass very well, holding the opposition to a 113.39 quarterback rating and intercepting 14 passes while allowing 9 touchdowns. But once again, this has been a very easy schedule for Army. They've had a really nice season. This is the first real defense they have played. I think they're going to struggle a little bit. The Irish stumbled in that Week 2 game and that shocking 16-14 loss to Northern Illinois. But that's the only blemish on their season. Defensively on the year, Notre Dame has held 9 of 10 opponents to 14 points or less. Only one team has scored over 20 points, 23 in that game, I believe. They too run the ball very well, averaging 6 yards per carry. So we got two teams that run the ball very well, although I think Army may struggle a little bit in that regard here. But I like the under. I think there's going to be a constantly moving clock in this one. And I even looked at team totals, and they've got Army at 13.5 to the over, pretty high. If you get under 14.5, I may play the Army team total under. As I said, the Irish have held 9 of 10 teams to 14 points or less. So if we can get over that key number 14, get a decent number here, we'll take Army under team total. But overall, I think we're looking pretty good with the under.
Liking the under here, back-to-back unders, and Teddy, you know what that means. Please do not talk about an under in this game. We should mention, though, for those that didn't see it, there were 6 turnovers in that Navy game, which really kind of allowed Notre Dame to take control and make Navy very one-dimensional. Over the years, we have seen the service academies usually getting more than 2 touchdowns. Teddy, it's been profitable because they're not allowing you to get enough possessions to run away with the game with how slow they are. Do you see that kind of situation, or do you think that defense of Notre Dame, this is the best athletes they've faced all year? Is it enough for you to lay to 14.5 points?
So it's 14 everywhere. There's no 14.5s out there right now. At least I'm not seeing any on the WagerTalk free live odds screen. But when we talk about the 6, I mean, in my mind, you have to handicap the Navy game to look at this game. And, Navy had 6 turnovers. Well, why did Navy have 6 turnovers? Navy had 6 turnovers because Notre Dame was in the backfield on every play, because Navy was stepping up in class for the first time this year, and Notre Dame's defenders were able to mess up the option. It's real easy to play option football when no one's getting in the backfield. But when someone gets in the backfield on plays after plays, guess what's going to happen? That option offense isn't going to work as well, and all of a sudden the execution isn't there, and all of a sudden the ball's on the ground. And you don't want to put the ball on the ground against Notre Dame. I don't see any way that Army moves the football in this ball game. Not a little, not a lot, not at all. And we talked about a weak schedule. This isn't a weak schedule. This is as weak a schedule as you will ever find. I don't have any of these teams in the top half of college football. I don't have any of these teams in my top 80. That's everyone Army's played all year to go undefeated to this stage. So, yeah, I don't want the dog here. It's favorite or pass for this better.
Favorite or pass here. The only thing that I'll throw out that scares the living crap out of me is Marcus Freeman, by the way. 3 years in South Bend. Yeah, he's lost as a 2-touchdown favorite or more 3 times in 3 years. Damn it, Marcus Freeman. Don't lose this game, please. Do not lose this game outright. Notre Dame minus 14 here against Army. That should be a fun one, guys. And I don't know how fun this next game is going to be, but it seems like there's some interest in it as Alabama is getting ready to take on Oklahoma here in a battle of SEC teams. And boy, oh boy, it can't seem to get it right at OU here. And what do you think, Ross? Does this have blowout written all over it? I mean, what are we here? 13 and a half, somewhere along those lines, maybe even more when it's all said and done. What are we doing with OU here?
I don't know. I'm not doing anything with them. I said the Texas A&M and Auburn line was fishy. There's nothing fishy about this line. I think it's accurate, and I think it might be Alabama might even be a little bit undervalued just because of the Oklahoma brand. You're looking at an Oklahoma team that's they've gone 0-4 in their last 4 SEC games, losing by 19 points per game. Their offense has been anemic in those last 4 SEC games, averaging only 12.3 points per contest. Their turnover margin during those 4 games was -9. They committed 12 turnovers in all. So it's been a disaster and ugly for Oklahoma in their last 4 in the SEC. And you got to think that maybe they're having second thoughts. Maybe they should have stayed in the Big 12. In any event, Alabama playoff lives at stake here. I find it hard to believe that any team is going to make the college football playoff with 3 losses. Maybe possibly a 3-loss team from the SEC if they lose in the SEC title game, but that's still a long shot in my estimation. A lot of desperation and urgency here for Alabama. Close the season at Auburn and possibly an SEC title game in the works. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. But in any event, I just think there's more to play for Alabama. They've looked awfully good in their last 2 SEC games, beating 2 pretty good teams in Missouri and LSU and beating them soundly, 34-0 at home against Missouri. And then they go on the road at LSU and just absolutely annihilate them, 42-13, basically eliminating LSU out of the playoff talk. So I'm going to lay the points here. I'm not going to try to overthink this one. I'm going to take Alabama here, -13.5 on the road at Oklahoma.
Listen, I spent a little time there, Bryan, Leonard, in Oklahoma, in Norman, and I cannot ever remember a game in which OU was a dog at home in Norman. It was unthinkable. It happened once from 2001 to 2023. It has happened 3 times this year, including this game already. I mean, you want to talk about how the mighty have fallen here, Bryan. It's Norman. Like, the OU doesn't get points at home unless, of course, in 2024. And they're getting a ton here, though. But is there any way you can back OU?
Yeah, according to my power ratings, I've got Alabama 16 on a neutral, which would make the Oklahoma a 2.5-point home advantage. I'm not so sure they have any home advantage at this point. If you are a fan of Oklahoma, you know the success you've had in the past. Are you really getting excited? If I'm getting excited, it's for the one chance to knock off a big team. Maybe that this is their Super Bowl. I know Teddy likes to take a look at things like that, where a team might come all out and this is their last chance, especially a team in Oklahoma right now that doesn't look like they're going to be bowling. So this could be their Super Bowl, but are they any good? They haven't been so far this season. You know, the Tides got 2 losses on the year. They lost at Vanderbilt and Tennessee, 2 pretty good defenses. When looking at the broad picture, we find Alabama outgaining the opposition by 2.08 yards per play, a very impressive number on the season. So even though they've had some losses on their card, you can take a team that outgains the opposition by over 2 yards a play every play. That's a team I'm looking to bet on. They also have a +13 turnover margin on the season, which shows their physical play. It's getting to be the end of the season for Oklahoma. No doubt they want to turn around their season here, but they're only 5-5 on the year, and they play Alabama here, and they play at LSU next week. Not looking good for Oklahoma's future here. My line says basically this is where it should be. I think it probably goes up to 14 or more on game day. If you do like Alabama, grab it before it gets to that number. I don't want Oklahoma here, but as we have seen, Alabama isn't quite as consistent as they've been in the past, but I still think this is Alabama's game to lose.
Certainly feels like that, Teddy. I mean, what the hell's going on, Teddy? What a difference a year makes. Michigan's getting points at home. OU's getting points. They're dogs at home. What in the hell is going on? But do you give OU any shot at keeping this thing close?
So you know me, Joe. I got to go look and find out. And I remember when I moved out to Vegas, 1998. John Blake was the head coach at Oklahoma. It was the 3rd year of his 3-year tenure, and the Sooners were bad. They were home dogs multiple times that year. So 1998, I believe, is the last time. The last time they were home dogs multiple times in a year. And 97 was just as bad, the John Blake era. If you have been around long enough, you'll remember. And if you don't, it went fairly quickly. And, of course, they hired Bob Stoops soon after Blake was fired. All that being said, there's correlation here between Oklahoma and under. All right, because I don't see the Sooners scoring points. It hasn't been a good offense all season. That hasn't changed. They still have issues at offensive line. They still have issues at wide receiver. Those are not issues that have gone away. They're ongoing. Alabama's defense, as we've seen and as we expected from Kalen DeBoer's squad, they were going to get better as the season progresses. It's a big culture change when Nick Saban leaves. And you have a new guy bringing in new assistants and coming in with new schemes, et cetera, et cetera. We've seen Alabama get better. We haven't seen Oklahoma get better. If I'm playing, I'm laying. I don't trust the Sooners to hang. But if you do like the Oklahoma side, in my opinion, they ain't going to trade points with Alabama. Oklahoma correlates, at least somewhat, with the under. If you make one bet, you may want to tie two together.
It'd have to be a hell of a defensive effort by OU to keep it within that number. And then the under is absolutely alive and well in that game. So there you got it here, guys. We got 5 games in the books. I see a couple of you guys have some questions about some of the other games on the slate. So we'll go ahead and tackle a few of these and get these guys' thoughts for you. What's another very interesting one here? And let me, Ross, since you talked about the SEC to begin with there with Texas A&M and Auburn, what do you think the chances of Florida at home keeping it close against Ole Miss here? Are you leaning one way or the other in that game?
If you put the proverbial gun to my head right now, I'd lay the points with Ole Miss on the road. I just think they're too good on both sides of the ball for Florida. Florida coming off an upset win against LSU last week, but that was an LSU team that was totally deflated. They had lost their previous game to Alabama at home, 42-13, as I alluded to earlier. That pretty much eliminated them from the college football playoff race. And then LSU followed that up with a dud. I think that Ole Miss has learned their lesson on a couple of occasions this year, most notably that loss to Kentucky at home. And right now they can't afford another loss. They have no room for error. And I like Ole Miss here, lay the points at the Swamp, which, again, Joe, you talked about Oklahoma. What's going on in college football? Florida has been a home underdog several times over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's really brutal. But they're going to keep Billy Napier, mostly because they have no choice. Absolutely. Joey Freshwater, Lane Kiffin, is absolutely going to look for style points in this game if he can get them for sure. All right, we got a late night degenerate special, I think, coming up here. Also, Bryan, Leonard, let me ask you, USC, UCLA. UCLA, one of the more surprising teams this year, right? Nobody really had them pegged to do just about anything, but they've gotten a bunch of pretty big wins here. USC, not as good as everybody thought, and a quarterback change. Former UNLV quarterback here, laying 4 now, 4.5, somewhere in that ballpark. Seems like a lot of UCLA love in the market here since the open. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I see that too. And that's my only concern here is I make the line a little bit higher, but I understand the UCLA love here. They're playing much better ball right now than USC has. Been 2 disappointing teams so far this year, but one of them is still battling to play better and to get on a positive roll, and that's UCLA, despite the loss last time out. Life in the Big Ten hasn't been really worked out as they had hoped coming into this season. USC is still looking for his first victory in a true road game all season long. Then again, they did play at Michigan, at Minnesota, at Maryland, and at Washington, all losses, all pretty good teams, decent teams. To make matters worse, they've only played one ranked team all season, and that was Penn State before the season ender next week when they take on another team. So it's a situation for me where I don't want any part of USC. but can I get there at UCLA at a discounted number? The Bruins are only 4-6 on the season, but this team's gotten better as the year's gone on, as I mentioned. They won 4 of the last 5. They host Fresno State next week. So this is still a team that has bowl aspirations. Unfortunately, we need to get 6 points for myself to put my money on this game. I don't think I'm going to get there. It's 4.5 now. It's been bouncing around 4.5, 5, 5.5. I want 6. If I can get 6, I'll be taking part in UCLA. I just don't think I'm going to get there. And without it, I think I'm buying a little bit cheap.
Yeah, it feels like you're getting a little bit cheap there too as well. 51.5 as the total in that one there. And Teddy, of course, a lot of split down the middle. Indiana gonna win it all. Indiana's gonna get blown out. Indiana this, Indiana that. So I still think the under's in play, but if you were looking at this game here, it feels like if you think Ohio State's going to win, they're going to win by margin. And if you think Indiana's going to keep this close, they should have a shot at winning this thing, shouldn't they?
Indiana's not keeping this close. Indiana's not winning this game. Indiana's not hanging around at the horseshoe. Sorry. The lights get real bright for a team like the Hoosiers that aren't used to being here when you talk about being undefeated in November. They've already had the most successful season in the history of the program. But again, this is Indiana, all right? They didn't come into the season with a power rating that was sky high, all right? Yet they've been favored in every game. I understand their power rating's gone up and up and up, but this is a team that was favored 3 times in 12 games last year, favored twice in 2022. In November, we start looking at the cumulative schedule, and boy, it matters. It matters a lot. We talked about it earlier, how, a team like Army hasn't faced a whole lot of competition this year. Florida International, Western Illinois, Charlotte, UCLA, Maryland, Northwestern, Nebraska, Washington, Michigan State, Michigan. What's the best team they play? Michigan? I know you can only play the teams on your schedule, but when you haven't played an elite team that has any elite teams, and the best win came against Michigan, they struggled mightily against the Wolverines. This offense did not work against a good defense, and that came at home. Okay. Ohio State covered -40 against this team last time they played here. So I want no part of the dog. It's favorite or pass. I think this is let's take the Cinderella slippers off Indiana. They're facing a real team, and a real team who's interested. If I'm playing, again, I'm laying it.
Interesting, Teddy. The defense of Ohio State, by far the best Indiana will have faced. Do you think Indiana, much like we talked about Army and a few of the other games, tough to find the points in this one in Columbus against that defense and Coach Knowles? No.
Yeah, I would probably. I think there's some correlation between Ohio State and under, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio State's scoring. If it ends up being a shootout, I don't think Indiana can trade points to them either. And it's worth noting, I left this out. Ralph Michaels' database. We always love when Ralph gives us database stuff. This one really stands out. Undefeated away dogs. All right, there's 3 parameters. You have to be undefeated with 7 or more wins. You have to be an away dog of +3 or higher, and you have to face a team with at least 1 loss. So you're not facing another undefeated. It's 3 parameters that make sense. All right, those teams like Indiana, 5-29 straight up, 10-24 ATS. Yes, that's 29% ATS for teams like the Hoosiers. Not a bet-on situation.
Yeah, not a bet-on situation at all. But plenty of games this week here, Ross Benjamin. No doubt you are locked and loaded already here, my friend, over at your page at WagerTalk.com. Tell the fine folks what they can grab over there.
I'm going to have a 5% best bet. I'm going to have 4 other plays in college football. And folks, why should you buy any college football from me? Because I've gone 123-84, Joe, 59%, net profit of $9,300 since December 2nd of 2022. And if my math is correct, that's over close to a 2-year period of time. That hasn't waned at all this year. 39-26. 60%, ranked number 2 at WagerTalk. And again, that previous long streak that I just talked about, that's ranked number one at Wager Talk over the last 2 years. And I'm pretty proud of that because there's a hell of a lot of good handicappers, great handicappers over at Wager Talk. So again, folks, take advantage of that. College football, I'm going to make a killing tomorrow. Went 2-1 last week, 5% top play on Georgia, another 5% top play this week. And I'm looking to sweep the board, Joe.
Listen, well, you've been sweeping it all year, so there's no reason to stop now here, Ross, by any stretch of the imagination. Go get his page over at WagerTalk.com. Partner up with Ross today. Bryan, Leonard, same situation here, not just college hoops, though, of course, NHL, basketball in full effect here. What do you got locked and loaded for the clients?
Yeah, I've got a 4% going today in college football, one of the games on the Friday card. 5% going on Saturday. That's only our fourth college football 5% of the season. I've got a basketball, NBA, and college also up for clients for today. Still filling out the card for the rest of the weekend, but I did want to touch on the Indiana-Ohio State game a little bit. Indiana has played Ohio State pretty well in certain areas in the past. They've been one of those teams that when they've been outmanned, for the most part, they've given Ohio State some troubles. I am a little bit concerned with Michigan on deck, knowing that that's the season for Ohio State, and they've lost the last 2 times they've played Michigan. What happens to Ohio State if they struggle against Indiana here and then they lose to Michigan in the last game? I mean, could they be possibly playing for the coach's job? I know coming out of Ohio, you can beat anybody you want, but if you don't beat Michigan, it doesn't mean anything. So I do have some concerns there. We'll see a little bit about this Ohio State team these next 2 weeks to see if they are a legitimate contender for the national title.
We went from battling for the number 1 seed in the country to now Ryan Day's losing his job all in 24 hours. This is going to be one hell of a game tomorrow, that's for sure. And we should know, by the way, I believe, Teddy, are you saying, is this line down to 10 now? Are you seeing that as well?
So there were some concerns about Ohio State and the offensive line. The starting center got hurt.
Right.
I'm seeing 10.5 and 11 across the board. And normally we worry a lot about offensive line injuries. When we look at Ohio State's depth on the offensive line, it's an injury we don't love, but it's not I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I can confirm.
Number.
The kid that's backing him up was the starting center last year. So I think all will be well in on the offensive line there against that Indiana front. Teddy, when it comes to WagerTalk.com on your page, you're locked loaded in this week 13 as well as week 12 in the NFL?
Yeah, we're running really good right now on a 70% all sports run heading into the weekend. Went 3-0 in the NFL last week, 68% NFL over the last 8 weeks. 100% perfect with college football big ticket reports since last November. And I've got a pair of big tickets going this weekend, one in college on Saturday and one in the NFL for Monday Night Football, as well as all my additional plays. Do not buy them. Buy a package. TC69 at checkout is going to get you 7 days all access. That's going to get you the 5% big ticket in college. That's going to get you the 5% big ticket in the NFL. It's going to get you every play every day for the next 7 days in every sport that I do. So don't buy the plays. Get on board. Use promo code TC69 at checkout and get that 7-day all access for just $69. Huge weekend, and we're running good right now.
The way to do it here. And by the way, I know I saw it in the chat room. There was plenty of move on the Iowa-Maryland game, too. Went from 6.5 to 4.5, and I believe that has everything to do with the fact that McNamara has been ruled out for Iowa, so they got some sort of walk-on fifth stringer or something playing for Iowa. But, I mean, Ross called me crazy. Trusting Maryland to do anything is good luck with that. Let me know how that works, but I do believe that is the line move there. And that's why we've seen it go from 6.5 to 4.5. But how many times, Ross, have we seen Iowa win games with special teams and defense?
Absolutely. And, sometimes the best play, Joe, is no play at all.
Yes.
And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yep, amen to that. Iowa, Maryland. Don't get it confused here, guys. Nothing crazy happening with Maryland. It's all about Iowa. All right, that'll do it there. Ross Benjamin, Bryan, Leonard, Teddy Covers, lock loaded, ready to roll here in this week 13 of the college football season. You can visit all three of these guys over at WagerTalk.com. You can also hit that thumbs up and the subscribe button. Become part of the Wager Talk TV family. We still got plenty more to get to here today, including the college basketball tip-off show coming up in about 20 minutes, not to mention 3:30 Eastern time. We'll go ahead with the NBA tip-off show as the NBA Cup continues on this Friday. We have got you covered. So on behalf of these guys, we appreciate the time. Best of luck with all the plays this weekend, guys. We'll see you again soon here on Wager Talk TV.